Well, welcome back to another Enneagram Case Files here over on LinkedIn. Today, we are diving into the anatomy of the Enneagram Type 7. We're going to look at what is the thing that drives a Type 7, common tendencies, pet peeves at work, how to know maybe if you are a Type 7, what to know about a Type 7 if you are not one but happen to be working with one. And we have a couple of informants that will be joining us for the case file review to kind of share their real life experience as a Type 7. Before we get into that, though, we're going to just look at the kind of big picture, what makes a 7 a 7. And as we go through this, as always, I'll just say a quick hello. I am Sarah, going to be your guide on this, the lead detective I've been saying. And I am the owner of Enneagram MBA, a team training company, the host of the Enneagram podcast, and get to facilitate and lead workshops for teams and organizations. And today we are diving into the Type 7, which for those of you who don't know, sometimes is referred to as the enthusiast, the multitasker. Any type can be enthusiastic, but they kind of have that reputation. At the end of the day, the thing that makes our Type 7, the Type 7, is this striving to feel excited. They want to be free from limitations. They want to have options, ideally free from emotional pain or discomfort, tend to look on the bright side. Our 7s are also sometimes known as the visionaries. They have this ability to just, they see what's possible in the future. And so they're always coming up with new and creative, exciting ideas. They're really focused on taking in as many experiences as they possibly can. We have some of our other types. We've reviewed our Type 1, our Type 3s, who tend to be kind of more task-oriented, goal-oriented. We've talked about our Type 2s being really relationship-focused. Our Type 7s are really experience-focused, whether that's with people, places, and a new adventure, a new opportunity. And one of their many superpowers is around enthusiasm. They have this ability to kind of rally everybody else around this new idea. Their energy, their excitement tends to be very contagious and inspiring. They are very spontaneous. They tend to be very upbeat. They can be very energetic. They can also feel like to others that it's just a lot of activity, a little hyperactivity. They can also sometimes come across as self-centered. They can sometimes come across as distracted. And they have a reputation for having lots of ideas, but not necessarily the follow through to execute on the ideas and making the commitment to see it to the finish line. And we'll talk more about that later. They're in this head or thinking center of intelligence. And unlike the 5s, 6s, especially where they see into the future about what might happen, maybe the bad that could happen and want to be prepared, the 7 tends to focus on the future, but looking at all that is possible, all the things that could happen for the good, all the possibilities, all the potential out there, constantly kind of planning for their next adventure, and will struggle sometimes in that kind of that average level of health to really be present and get to enjoy the plans that they have been planning for. Their problem solving style tends to be very rose colored glasses. Glasses have full, everything happens for a reason. Let's look on the bright side. Kind of, oh, you lost one arm. Well, at least you have, at least you didn't lose both arms. Kind of optimism there, which again has its place, right? And then when it comes to getting things done, they are in that assertive stance with our 3s and our 8s, where they're going to just jump right in. They're really focused on the future, maybe ask for permission later or forgiveness later rather than permission first. And along the way, though, 7s will tend to, they might just jump in by themselves, but they also, because of that infectious enthusiasm, they have a much easier time to rally everyone around their new idea to get it going. The downside of that sometimes can be not thinking about, or maybe ignoring, but I think most of the time not even considering what could go wrong. And so not planning, kind of preparing for those situations and just kind of dealing with that as it might come. I want to bring our informants in just a moment. We have Kate and we have Ellen. And I'm going to go back to this slide. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for being willing to be an informant. Ellen, I'm gonna call on you first if you're willing to share. What about the 7 energy resonates with you the most?
Well, the first time I learned about Enneagram, can I give a little background?
Yeah, please do.
I worked with the Enneagram coach, Linda, Lynda Brown, and I have been working with this company, Helios, who works in corporate culture, and they recommended her because they all used her as a coach. And to give you some real background, I'm in recovery from alcoholism. I've been sober 33 years, and I bring that up because I went through such a huge personality, learn more, getting sober and going through the 12 steps and working on myself. And I never learned as much until I did the Enneagram. It was that, revolutionary in my life. And what was really interesting to me was learning. Well, I knew a lot of the stuff because I had done strength finders, and Helios has strength scopes, which measures what what energizes you, because you can be good at something, but not like to do it. So I think a lot of it was very validating to learn all this about myself and what was the good, but it was also really interesting to look at what I need to work on. And a lot of that was really surprising to me. But because I had done the 12 steps and, you do so much inventory, I was really open to learning about it. So I can go more into the negative, but what really resonates with me is I'm not hyper active, but I have a lot of ideas. I'm very enthusiastic. I do look on the bright side, and I love to work with a group. I have learned that I do not do well alone. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I was actually going to share with anybody else in the recovery community. I don't know if you've read this. There is an Enneagram for Recovery book by, I thought it's just Jenner K. And I have looked for this person more, and I just can't find any more out about them. But I'll put this in the show notes for anybody else. It's called. Yeah, I got it on Amazon, I believe, the Enneagram for Recovery. So that might be interesting for anybody else.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah.
And just really quick, I'm curious, as a follow-up, did you immediately know that was your dominant type, or were there a couple that you struggled between in the beginning?
Well, when I took one of those little tests online, it actually said I was a 9. And when I did the deep dive with the IEQ-9 individual professional report, that's when I came out as a 7. And working with Linda, I realized, I really am a 7.
Yeah. It helps. It does help to work with somebody. Thank you for sharing that. We'll come back to some of what you said. Kate, I want to bring you in, and I'm going to ask you the same thing. What are some of the pieces of the 7, either that we've covered or that we haven't, that really resonate with you?
Yeah. So first off, Ellen, 33 years sober. I just feel like congratulations and like badass. I'm like, that's so awesome. As someone who has family members are sober too, or, have sobriety, that's just so amazing. And just kudos to you. When I first kind of started exploring Enneagram, I did a couple of tests, and then I also learned about Enneagram through you, Sarah. So it came out between like 7 and 2 for me. And the more I kind of like read up on the 2, I definitely feel like the 7 is more of my personality, professionally and in my, personal relationships. I typically am pretty enthusiastic. I am very much into, spontaneous. If there is a topic that is being discussed more than 2 times, I am probably beating my head on the wall, which, can be good professionally, but also, sometimes you do have to rehash things out multiple times. So that's definitely where I do see that aspect of me struggle a little bit professionally, and having to work on my patience. I love working in groups too. And I think it's super fun when you do have group settings to kind of be the person that, I don't know, energizes. I do definitely feel like I fall into that category of being the energetic one, who's pushing the energy, who's like really trying to push to get things done. And like seeing how it all works together, at the beginning of a project, and understanding the different streamlines, where different individuals will come in and fit the piece or a project, and like really supporting it through the end of the life of getting it done. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's so interesting. I was also deciding if I was a 2 or a 7 in the beginning too, Kate. I think there's a couple reasons for that, but that's interesting. And you said, let's see, and you said a 9, Ellen, right? Was the other one for you? Okay. Yeah, that is another kind of very common one. It's really interesting for the 7, at least for me, and I'll ask both of you what your thoughts are on this. Because yes, in that stereotypical range, I think 7s, kind of some of us will fit that stereotypical, hyperactive, scattered, have trouble with commitment. But the more that we learn, the more that we grow, the less we'll actually look like that 7, like each type. And so for the 7, I've always found it really interesting and also really helpful that our arrows, or what I've just learned that they can also be called, is called resource points, which I love that idea, is the type 1 striving to be perfect, and the type 5 striving to feel capable, competent, kind of self-sufficient. And initially I was like, those are 2 of the most boring types. Like I don't want anything to do with those. And then ironically, there are lots of things within those 2 that I intentionally try to kind of bring in to help me, bring a vision to life and get it across the finish line, to commit to something, to focus on something, to be okay with being by myself. And so I'll ask each of you. So the 1 tends to be pretty structured. Again, we're talking stereotypes, so not all and every one, but just that energy in general tends to be pretty self-disciplined, self-controlled, prefers structure, routine, kind of has a set of rules, which is the opposite of the 7 when it comes to rules. And then the 5 energy tends to be really focused. They tend to prefer solitude more. And I'm curious if either one of you would be willing to share how you've seen maybe pulling in some of that, whether you knew it was your arrows or something else, to kind of enhance the 7 energy that you have. Not necessarily change yourself, but just kind of enhance what you have already.
You want to go, Kate?
Yeah, sure. I can go first. So with not realizing that I was bringing in my 5 and 1 arrows, I know personally, I have learned that I have got to take alone time or time away, meaning if that's just me sitting in my bedroom by myself reading a book, but really just putting forth concerted effort to where it's me just showing up as a solo person doing something. because I need that, I don't know, lack of stimulation maybe from others, or I don't know, just kind of a little bit more solitude. That way I do kind of have that more genuine energy where when I am in groups or I am kind of like wanting to be the enthusiastic person, it is more genuine and it is showing up more naturally instead of it constantly showing up. But there are times when it's too much, but really I'm still showing up in that aspect, but it's more out of, feeling like that's how I am supposed to be instead of me just being that way naturally. And then as far as like pulling in the one type, I am very scattered. I definitely am all over the place. If I don't have a to-do list, if I do not have an idea of what is going on in my day or what needs to be accomplished, it's not getting accomplished because I will find new ideas or new ways to I don't know, improve a project or, like filter in like new things within work professionally and even at home sometimes, like I know the simplest thing is, I don't know, meal planning or grocery shopping, personally, just understanding what's already in the house. But I will wake up and be like, oh, we don't have any plans for supper. And I will come up with this like elaborate scheme of things. When really, if I would just look at what's going on and be a bit more disciplined, there's enough food in the house to fix probably 3 meals. So anyway, that's probably how it shows up personally and professionally for me.
I can relate to a lot of that, Kate. Was letting you know. Ellen, what about you?
I think when I started in business, I tended to be a perfectionist. And then I've had to learn like good enough. It's good enough. I don't have to go over and over and over and check all the grammar and check that it makes sense. You know what I mean? It's good. I had to learn good enough because I'll get mired in the details. Because unlike sevens, I do like details. I do love spreadsheets. And then I think what Kate was saying was, when I need my time to process. I'm very outgoing. I love networking. It's one of my favorite things, which is a 7. I love to connect people that can help each other. And but I need like a goal and a vision to keep me focused, or I will instead, like I just took a new job in sales, and I'll work on the marketing materials for days and not make calls. Like I have to have my vision, my goal, my to-do list. I bought a system that keeps me focused. And I think when I don't want to go too much into the pain because you're probably going to bring that in, but I just know that I need processing time. That's what I think Kate was talking about. I need to okay, I'm overstimulated. I need to go in, and even if it's just watching Netflix, it looks like I'm doing nothing. But of course, I'm also doing games or crossword puzzle or something on my phone. I can't do just one thing. I just need that time to regroup, and I am processing data.
Yes. And like you're saying that you like details, and we're going to talk about myths at the end as we start to wrap up. But it's all about kind of like that why behind the behavior and like the why behind the alone time. And I can't speak for all sevens or even the two of you, but I know that's important to me too, because it's a chance just to kind of, like you said, step away from all the stimulation and just, I don't know, sometimes I enjoy just kind of getting lost in my own thoughts and just not being interrupted and brainstorming or just, whiteboarding something out. I get so much satisfaction from that, but it's kind of like, why is that? And all of mine tend to kind of tie back to that, striving to feel excited.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We have our informants already in here with us. I talk a lot with work groups, and how to use the Enneagram in the workplace and with teams to be able to understand ourselves, but also to be able to understand how somebody else might be seeing the world, might be seeing the conversation, might be seeing the start of a project, for example. And so we'll talk about kind of common pet peeves for each of the types. And for our type 7, they tend, not all every time, but tend to really dislike any type of micromanaging. They're not big rebels like the 8s might be known as, but they'll kind of do it. They call it, I've heard it called like quiet rebellion, where they'll kind of make friends with their leadership or their manager, so that they can kind of be on that same level and not feel like they're being controlled. They hate it when they come with a new idea and somebody shoots it down or says, "Oh, we just can't do that. That won't work," without even considering it, dwelling on what's not working. Sometimes that 6 energy and the 7 energy I've heard kind of come up with some conflict, because the 6 is kind of like, well, what if, kind of devil's advocate, and it comes across as a Debbie Downer to somebody like the 7. And so again, just understanding how you tend to see the world and how somebody else might be seeing the world, you can start to have maybe not agreements necessarily, but some empathy, understanding where they're coming from. Hate meetings that drag on. 3s and 8s probably all feel that same way, being in that like, let's go far, let's go fast. This probably could have been an email. When somebody offers too much detail, they just kind of want to get to the point. I've heard 7 say, I do this a lot. And then just creating, the red tape, bureaucracy, processes just for the sake of writing something down and nobody even follows them, kind of restricting the creativity. So, Kate, I'll start with you, but is there anything on here that really bugs you as well, or maybe something we didn't talk about that is a huge pet peeve at work for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, so micromanaging, the top one, that is, there is nothing worse for me than a micromanager. Thank God I do not have micromanagers, and I've only encountered them at, past careers. So I don't know, there's something about a micromanager, I feel like for a 7 that just really, it makes it almost too choppy for us, right? Like the constant need to check in. It almost feels like for me that, you can't sit down and just like flow into what you need to take care of, or you can't come in and be excited about something. You are really having to be driven by someone else's agenda. Whereas I feel like 7s, our excitement kind of steers our agenda, right? It points us in our direction of what we need to accomplish that day, and really allowing us to lean into our energy, which I think also points us in our purpose. So I don't know, micromanaging is really tough for me. And again, I'm so thankful that, I don't have a micromanager in my life, because it would be so rough. But yeah, I mean, I think too, meetings dragging on, and the whole, I think your bullet point says, well, we can't do that. At work for me, it's well, this is how we've always done it.
Yeah.
Response. And I'm like, that's,
Yeah.
I'm like, what does that even mean? What do you mean this is how we've always done it? That's not an answer. That's not a response. So, yeah, I would say those are probably my top ones.
Ellen, what about you?
Absolutely. And our need to feel safe and get away from pain, micromanaging doesn't come within those categories. It just feels like, let me do what I want. Let me do what I need, because I know better. That's part of us sometimes.
Yeah.
I can give you examples of awful work environments. So I've had 25 careers. Talk about chasing excitement. As soon as I master something, I'm totally bored and I have to do something else.
Yeah.
And so a couple jobs that I could, or careers that I never stopped learning, were my favorite, and also where I could hire, develop, train, develop, and promote, because that was so interesting to me. that I got to do all those things. And I like startups because I like to build a better mousetrap. So I'm always looking at, well, how can we take information from this and use it in this situation to do better? So I worked at a school once as a school nurse. I started out in nursing, but it said they used to say to me, "Oh, we don't do it that way here." And I'm thinking, "You're a school. Are you kidding me?" But it was, it just was not a good place for me. Um, so yeah, I would say, actually the last one of my taglines is I write manuals even when no one asks me to, but it's not like for excessive processes. It's more for, it helps me learn. And I'm very into creating a safe culture. So I want to catch people. If I write it down, then I learn it. I like having a vision, a mission, and a goal. And so it's kind of like a rule book to keep the culture.
Yeah. And again, it kind of just goes back to that why. And I could see, for me having processes or, even like having a clean house, I think is maybe a stereotype that sevens just kind of throw everything around. They're messy. But it's like, I need that space or that list or whatever it is so that I can go off and be creative and kind of let other things get messy. I can't have everything messy. So I feel that. I've also talked to a lot of sevens who have had multiple very different careers. There was a woman on the podcast who talked about going to seminary school, and then she was a yoga instructor, and then worked in a factory, and now works for a beauty spa. And so it's really interesting. And Kate, I love how you said the micromanaging just kind of feels choppy because you're in the flow.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that is worth others knowing as well as about ourselves, is that sevens are in that head center of intelligence, and we have a lot of thoughts, and we have a lot of balls up in the air, a lot of different things. And so for somebody to come in, like you're juggling, you have them all, but for somebody to come in and ask a question or constantly be checking in, it's hard to keep all that kind of moving. And so I felt that, and I love the way that you described that. Kate, is there anything that other types should know outside of these pet peeves, maybe to do, that you really appreciate? Or, it can be anything that has happened to you in your own personal experience that other types should know about working well with you.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. I don't know if, these would be pet peeves, but I think when you are someone who's working with a seven, I think it may require some patience, extra patience, because or at least for me, I can get pretty excited across different areas of, what my role requires at work. And so I dabble a lot. And so I kind of come in hot, right? Come in hot with energy, with ideas. And then I kind of like fade away for a little bit. But I come back with, doing what I said I was going to do or executing. But I am aware that it may take me a little bit longer to execute on the excitement, on the energy, or on like the vision that I have for XYZ to fully follow through. So I do think it maybe requires a bit more patience with us, because it is, I don't know, because we are in our head so much, I feel like we do require more time to process what it needs to look like, all the aspects. And I definitely, when I am working on a project, I need to also understand the holistic view, right? So how, for instance, if I'm working on a project, how does that project intersect all aspects? I want to make sure that I'm not working in a silo. I want to make sure that we are fully addressing everything when we're kind of thinking about stuff. And I may not come back with, resolutions for how all those avenues need to be addressed. But I definitely want to come back with energy on making sure that all the avenues are addressed and there's no silo and we've thought about everything before, starting to, take bites into something. So, yeah.
Ellen, what about you?
I love that, Kate, that people need patience. Also, I am very heart-centered, so understanding that I am sincere when I talk about feelings, and that can really push some people that are not open away or think that we're being manipulative or I can just go overboard on that. And what was one other thing? I do process ideas very quickly. So at one time I might talk to you about idea A, and then if there's like a week that goes by, I'm already on D, and they're like, "Where's B and C?"
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel that. Yeah. I've heard this too from people who are being led by a 7, and they'll say, they'll come in and say, okay, this is the initiative or this is the focus, and like get everybody excited. And then a week later, it's like, oh, new thing, new idea. Or they'll just say something and then their team is off to work on it. And they're thinking, oh, wait, I just meant like that was kind of fun to think about. I didn't mean like start on it. Like I'm just spitballing here. Like we don't have to do it. So just kind of, again, just being aware. I had 2 specific qualities that I want to ask you about before we start to wrap up. And whatever you have, please share. And if you don't have anything, that's okay too. But one of the things that 7s tend to have a reputation around is this positivity. And sometimes almost toxic positivity, both with themselves and kind of with whatever's going on around them or whoever is around them. Kate, is that something that you have seen in yourself as a type 7?
Yes and no. So I probably am hyper focused on toxic positivity because it's something that is very triggering for me. Something that I don't like. So I think I maybe I work to not be toxic positive, right? It's very important to me to be realistic and pragmatic a little bit. And so when someone does come in with toxic positivity, it's actually almost it's too abrasive for me. So I don't know how that doesn't fit within me, but I'm very aware of it and I work very hard not to be toxic positive. So yeah.
Ellen?
Yeah, I agree. I can't really see that in myself, but it's something to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm very pragmatic also. So
I'm glad that you both brought that up because I think that could be a myth for the 7s, that all 7s are rose-colored glasses, toxic positivity kind of thing. So I appreciate you sharing that. Another one, and this is kind of getting into the layers of the Enneagram. Each type has something called like your vice or your passion. And for the 7, it's this idea of gluttony and just kind of overall meaning like more experiences, not just food or material things. It could be material things, but just more. Oh, this was good. I need more. And it could be great. I'm curious if that theme has shown up in your own life and if that's something you've noticed or, like Kate, you were saying, been focused on not doing or working through, just anything about kind of that idea like, oh, this is 1's great, 5's better kind of energy.
Yeah. So if I enjoy something, if I like something, then I probably definitely tend to lean into how can I make that show up more in my life. So that's definitely present with me. So I can, if I'm like really enjoying a book, I can finish that book in 72 hours maybe. And that is because I am most definitely making choices where I'm not doing what I need to do, and I'm just sitting down and I'm reading that book. You know, as far as like traveling and experiences, if I go somewhere and I have the best time, I'm immediately focused on, okay, how can I get back there? How can I, you know, make this trip happen again? Maybe not that same exact spot. So yes, that is definitely part of me. So for the good and for the bad.
Yes, I can relate to that with food, with alcohol when I was active. I can do things that take me out of my body. And that was something that I learned here, that I need to get more into my body. I love massages. I love reflexology. I go to a personal trainer now. I love that. I love my Peloton. And you know, when they say that our main thing is not feeling pain, and that I can reframe, if I get negative feedback, I can reframe it to positive, so that I'm not really taking responsibility or accountability. So that's something that's really interesting for me to learn, and something I will take. You know, I'll pay attention to that, because I do think that I like to have a level playing field in the business world. I don't like when somebody pulls rank on me with feedback.
Yes.
And I think that I never looked at my wanting to be friends with everyone or wanting to have a relationship as manipulative. So I'm also having to think about that. But I truly do love to, you know, meet people, and I love to build relationships and have them, you know, make them become deeper than just superficial. But also, I've learned a lot of people don't want to go there, and I have to stop, Ellen. You know,
Ellen,
no,
I
no,
can
no.
identify with that. If someone
Yeah,
wants like a very surface level relationship, it's hard for me then to understand how to proceed. I'm similar with that. Like, I'm like, oh no, like if we're gonna be in a friendship, it's a full on like relationship. And a lot of people are very comfortable with more of what I would deem an acquaintance, right?
exactly.
They're really acquaintances. I totally.
I tried to develop this graphic in my head, like I have an A team, a B team, and a C team. My A team is who I trust. I want to get closer. They want to